And it is time for our NFL Power Rankings for Week 8. I noticed that there are 11 teams with 2 losses or less this season, so I actually made this a top 11 list. There are a lot of 3-loss teams who I like, and I want to give some respect to quickly. Houston, who Bovada has at plus 3,000 to win the Super Bowl. Oakland, who's at plus 8,000. Dallas, who's at plus 1,600. Arizona, who's at plus 15,000. And LA, the Rams at plus 1,800. I want to give those all teams respect. I'm definitely watching them. But this one was easy. There's 11 teams with 2 losses or less, so let me just talk about the teams with the best records in the league. Tied at number 10. We'll just start and we'll go from 10 to 1 here. Tied at number 10 is Seattle and Carolina. Seattle coming off a loss. Carolina, who's off a bye week. Seattle, according to Bovada, is at plus 2,500, and Carolina is at plus 3,500 to win the Super Bowl. I like, obviously Russell Wilson. I like Seattle a little bit more than I do like in Carolina. Carolina's defense is a little bit further along, and they have Christian McCaffrey. Seattle, I like what they're doing in the run game. Chris Carson's very good, and I like these receivers. Losing Will Dissly and him going on the IR, that really sucks, but Jacob Hollister, keep an eye out for him. I think he's pretty good. He looks pretty good, and he's an under-the-radar guy, so if you're really desperate for a waiver wire claim, he's somebody who is on my waiver wire pickups list video for Week 8. Now, in Carolina, I don't know. Carolina has a tough matchup against San Francisco this week. Obviously, if they win that game, they will be on the list. It's going to be a tough matchup for them, but it's also going to be a tough matchup for San Francisco. I like how these teams actually match up. I think it's going to be a very good game, so stay tuned there. Number 9 on my list is the Minnesota Vikings, who Bovada has at plus 1,800 to win the Super Bowl. You can't ignore what Kirk Cousins is doing. He was coming under a lot of criticism. These last 3 weeks, he's played exceptionally well. Now he's going to be under the lights in a short week against his former team in Washington on Thursday night. Now, everything is pointing to Minnesota winning this game. I actually think that they're, according to Bovada, it was like minus 16 points. I think Washington's going to cover that spread. Nothing in my analytics are telling me that. I know I'm crazy, but I know this Washington team, and I know Kirk Cousins well from having followed Washington back in the day. And this just is like kind of game that Cousins would struggle in. Now, Dalvin Cook and the Minnesota defense should run away with it, and Minnesota should have an easy game, but 16 points, that seems like a lot to me. Number 8 on my list is the Indianapolis Colts, who are plus 2,500 after their defeat of the Houston Texans. Their defeat, not our defeat. I'm not affiliated, and I don't care that they won. But they did take care of business against Houston, who I think is also very good, as I mentioned at the top of the show there. But, they're atop the division, and I like what Frank Reich is doing, and Jacoby Brissett looks like he could be a Pro Bowl quarterback by the end of the season. He's very, very good. The hangover from Andrew Luck retiring is lessening, so good for Indianapolis. I'm happy for the Colts fans. That would have sucked if it derailed their season, but they definitely look like a playoff caliber team. Number 7 on my list, moving up slightly from last week, is the Buffalo Bills, who, according to Bovada, are at plus 3,500. Now, I like the Buffalo Bills. I like what they're doing offensively, but this is a defensive team. Their offense does enough to win games. They're the team that has given the Patriots the most trouble. I don't think they even gave up a touchdown offensively in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Patriots' lone touchdown might have been like a punt return or something like that, or a punt block if memory serves. But, Buffalo's very good. They're going to give teams a lot of trouble. I have a feeling that they might struggle a little bit with Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia has talent and their backs are against the wall. We'll see. I mean, if Buffalo throttles them, they're going to move up in my rankings again, because I really think Philadelphia is going to bring it this game. And if Buffalo can come out and cover the spread and win the game, man, that says a lot about that team. So good for Buffalo. Number 6 on my list, coming off a victory against Seattle, is Baltimore at plus 1,600, according to Bovada. I like what the Ravens are doing. They can run the ball, and their defense is better. I liked what Marcus Peters brought to this defense last week. Peters scored a couple of touchdowns. Now, he's not going to do that every week, but just having that good cover corner on the other side, that's going to make this Ravens defense look a little bit more like we're used to seeing Ravens defense look like. I want to see Lamar Jackson throw a little more, but Marquise Brown has been hurt in recent weeks, and let's face it, Mark Andrews dropped a lot of passes last week, and Baltimore still won. So good for them. That's why Baltimore shot ahead of Seattle. That's why they're inching back up in this list. I've liked Baltimore all year. I'm not even sure if they've ever fallen off this list. They're very, very good. Number 5 on this list is Kansas City. Now, I flirted with moving Baltimore ahead of them, but since Kansas City won earlier in the year in their matchup, I didn't think that would be fair. Kansas City is at plus 950 according to Bovada. Now, Patrick Mahomes is hurt, but it looks like they got really lucky, and he's not going to be out for a super long time. I believe he's practicing in limited capacity. I saw that news this week. That's great news for Chiefs fans. But having Green Bay come into town with Patrick Mahomes out, that's not great. But don't underestimate Andy Reid and his ability to game plan. He had the Thursday night game, so he's had some extra time to prepare for this Green Bay team. It could be a closer game than people think. I think Green Bay's favored by 5.5. Or they were the last time I looked. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that game. If Kansas City loses, I'm not going to freak out on them. I might bump them down a little bit in the rankings, but this is a team that Patrick Mahomes is the leader of that team. But hey, there's a team ahead of Kansas City on this list that lost their quarterback, and they're doing pretty good. Number 4 on this list is at this point we're getting into, I think, probably my big championship team caliber teams. So like Kansas City, I think Baltimore can win the Super Bowl. Buffalo, I'm not quite sure that they're there yet. So I'm down to like 6 to 8 teams or something that can win the Super Bowl. But number 4 on my list is San Francisco. According to Bovada, they are at plus 1,000 to win the Super Bowl. So their odds are diminishing, which means their odds are getting better and better that they will win the Super Bowl. Look, their defensive line has been great. I've been talking about them since like week 2. Their defensive line is great. My only question mark is how efficient is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be? Well, they just traded for Emmanuel Sanders, and that's going to add another dimension onto this team that's talented everywhere. They're a very, very serious team. I can't wait till they start to get into some of these the NFC West battles, or they're going to have to deal with Seattle. They're going to have to deal with the Rams and the Cardinals, who I showed some love to at the beginning of this. The Cardinals could very easily be 4-2. Remember, they have that overtime tie against Detroit to start the year, and Detroit's not a bad team either. Arizona's on a tear. It's going to be an interesting division. I can't wait till these these NFC West foes start banging heads against each other. Number 3 on my list is the Green Bay Packers, plus 900 according to Bovada to win the Super Bowl. We saw Aaron Rodgers last week just go crazy. This team can beat you with defense. This team can beat you with running. This team can beat you with passing. When you can beat teams in all those ways, that's good. Now, one of my question marks going into that Raiders game last week is how quickly will head coach Matt LaFleur deviate from his game plan if it's not working. Like, how adaptive can he be? How can he adjust? And he showed me a lot. I was very impressed. I think this is the first game that I watched from beginning to end live for Green Bay. I watched all the games, but this is the first one I watched live beginning to end for Green Bay, and very, very impressive. So I bumped them up quite a bit in the rankings. Number 2 on my list this week is the New Orleans Saints, plus 550 according to Bovada to win the Super Bowl. The Saints have been going on a tear without Drew Brees. Drew Brees is questionable. He might play this week. This is a team that I think could give New England fits, one of the very few. They have a defensive pass rush that can get to Tom Brady with 4. They have, a cornerback that can lock down somebody on the outside. They play really good run defense. Like, they have good answers for what the Patriots do well. The question is, what can they do offensively against this Patriots defense? Well, they have some answers there too. I mean, Drew Brees is good. They have Mike Thomas. They have Kamara when he's healthy. This is going to be an interesting matchup if that matchup were to happen. And number 1 on my list, no surprise here, it's New England, who have, according to Bovada at this point, are plus 240 to win the Super Bowl. They dismantled New York on Monday night. That wasn't really a surprise. Now, their schedule is going to start getting tougher. We're going to see some other games. The best team that they've played so far is Buffalo, and they kind of squeaked out with that win. I think it was 16-10, if memory serves. So that one is going to be, the Patriots, are they going to go undefeated? Probably not. I know there's some buzz. That's why I'm saying that. Probably nobody's going to go undefeated. Again, it's really tough to do, but New England, man, they're really, really good. They're a sound football team. They're good at everything they do, except for extra points this season. But they'll get that righted as well. I mean, what can you say about them? I'm looking forward. I hope Mahomes is back at full strength in December when the Patriots play the Chiefs, and we'll see what happens there. But there you go. There's another episode, or there's another rankings, power rankings. If you agree, disagree, please comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, for everybody who's listening to this on the podcast, once again, it's youtube.com/theunderdog, THE underdog, the underdog. Check us out. We're growing, and it's exciting. And I'm as interactive as I can be. I've been spending all day today replying to things on YouTube and Reddit and all that stuff. So check us out, and we appreciate it. And then for our podcast listeners, back to the show.